Hello, everyone out there. Today we're lucky enough to have in the studio a band called the Rock Music of Canada. They're getting a lot of good press in the locality at the moment. So, do you guys want to introduce yourself to everyone? Tell us what you do in the band.
Hello there, everyone. Within the sound of my voice, my name's Blake Crampton. I handle the guitar and the general wailing duties of the band.
I'm Scott. I do the low end bit and some rubbishy backing vocals.
Hi, my name's Tom, and I do the drums in the band. Yep.
Yeah. He does the drums so well.
Thank you.
Great stuff. So, how long have you been going now, guys?
We formed in I can't remember the precise date, but 15th of October 2017. So we've been a band for just over a year and a half now at the time of this.
Yeah. And how did you all meet? Did you know each other prior to that? Or?
Well, this is my department, isn't it? Essentially, I'll speak it from an autobiographical sense. Myself, I just switched courses at Blackburn College. And I recently moved to Blackburn, where I met Scott as part of one of the youth music projects going there at the time, which was called Soundtracks Project. So I met Scott through that. But Tom, I met at Blackburn College at the time. I noticed him around, and Tom, like myself, he has a autism spectrum disorder, so we kind of also met through Elaine, our mutual support worker. So I jammed with Tom about a year before that, and I jammed with Scott on and off during the Soundtracks project. But around the time I switched courses, I decided I wanted to put a band together after doing a bunch of acoustic shows, which some people remember with Trauma and Horror. But when I wanted to put a band together, I couldn't think of anyone better than Tom and Scott, because of they were just incredible musicians at the time, and still are, frankly, and like the two best people I could have thought of for the job. And so I've stuck them together in a room. They never met, on a very bleak Thursday afternoon. Very short notice. I gave them literally no time, no options. They just had to come down at the time. Oh, Tom was overly enthusiastic. Scott at the time was you were a lot shy back then, and still getting used to my general blur of madness.
Yeah, I wasn't overly keen on going down because I didn't know Tom and I wasn't too great around new people at that time.
No.
You got better with me, though. You definitely got better with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we've been going. Now we jammed and we wrote like 3 songs in the first 2 hours, and then immediately we just kept doing it over and over again, and wrote pretty much close to 100 songs at this rate, and only managed to successfully remember 50. Less than that.
Yeah. How many actual albums and stuff have you got out on now?
Well, at this present time, we released an album last October called Songs to Pleasure Thyself 2, recorded at the fabulous Kesbury Studios by the one and only Boovie. Yep. Thank you, Andy, for the silent whoop in the background, pledging Bolton alumnus. But we recorded that in the summer of 2018 and released it in October, because at that point we wrote an entire album and we thought, we want to have this recorded, we want to have this documented, we want to have it out there, and we released that, and didn't make really much of a splash, as much as fill the toilet, but but we released that, and then a few months later I submitted us for a competition in Blackburn through Escher House Audio that opened in the rehearsal studios, Cathedral Rehearsal Studios, run by the fabulous Pete in Blackburn. And they offered us like a massive discount of a standard studio rate. So we booked that in for a day.
Nice.
Sorry?
Always nice.
Always nice. So we did that. We booked that in. And we recorded an entire EP within 8 hours. And that's coming out from the time of this. It's coming out on the 15th of June this year. Hopefully we'll get a little more attention now that we've done 4 more gigs than we did at the time. Yeah, we've done a few more gigs now, and we'll get a bit more of an audience thanks to Sunbird Records, and where we're going to be doing our debut show with our friends Pints with Gandhi and stuff like that. But to answer the question, we've got an album and an EP. I'm going to be working on our next album this July.
Yep. Okay, brilliant. You mentioned gigging there, obviously. Have you had a favourite venue or a favourite place you played so far? Or?
Sunbird.
Definitely Sunbird, yeah.
Well, out of the handful of places we played, which is literally, we've played Youth Zone in Blackburn.
The Bureau.
The Bureau, which is sadly no longer with us, the actual venue itself, St John's Church, burned down a few months ago, and that was a phenomenal venue to play. We played there twice. We played a dusty gym hall, and within 5 seconds of playing, everyone left. That was a good. That was a good grounding moment there.
Really sums up our existence as a band, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, people say, oh, we're really happy to see you, and then the person who invited us left. So that.
It was quite embarrassing, actually. I mean, I remember playing behind the kit with the guys, and I even I was going to, give the sort of, well, I wasn't really showing my, well, I wasn't actually saying it because of the sheer volume of the noise, but I did indicate that, I think I tried to indicate to you, Blake, something was really not going right, something was going wrong.
Well, again, we were in a gym hall. There was no PA. There was a karaoke machine, no mics, no mic stands. At that point, after all the anxiety that we're building up, we just hit the point of the moment we started playing and everyone left, we just realised, you know what, let's just trash this place for the sake of the fact that we can actually play. We enjoyed it. It was a good gig, though. I quite enjoyed it. I think it takes losing an audience to recognise that you're just happy with your existence as a band. We just play for ourselves at this point. But luckily, we've... not exclusively, no. We enjoy playing rehearsals, but we love playing in front of audiences. And Sunbird Records have been very kind to us. The first gig we played, we were supposed to be supporting a band called Of Allies, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and they pulled out like the day before. So Damo at Sunbird, he just said, if you guys want to play, so we just played. And all the people who weren't told that Of Allies pulled out still showed up anywhere. And we played an absolutely amazing set. We gathered loads of fans, and we've really networked from there. And the last gig we played, though, we actually were properly headlining it.
Right.
So they've been very, very kind to us and been very, very supportive of us. They've been very understanding and very enthusiastic. So that would be our favourite place.
Yeah, you tend to find that's the way it works, and I think everyone in the music industry's had those wobbly moments at times, haven't they?
Oh yeah, but it builds character.
Of course,
like how that unsupportive gym teacher in every secondary school says, when you fall off the rope or you get a dodgeball to the face, they say it builds character. It builds character.
Just got to get back on with it, haven't you? Really?
Yeah, you just got to crack on and enjoy what we do.
Yeah. Oh, fair dues. So it's a bit of an unusual band name. How did that come about?
The story of that's quite a mundanely funny one, if you can believe the oxymoron. Basically, in my phone, I've had a mile-long list of songs and song titles and album titles and band titles, just stuff like I've been walking around and like I heard an expression or I saw a sign and thought that would make an interesting band name, because I'm quite a fan of obscure bands like Big Black, Butthole Surfers, American Underground bands, stuff like that. So I'm a fan of obscure, more that's interesting kind of names that make you think. But one night I was just I was listening to bands like Japan Droids and Death from Above 1979, and I thought rock bands from Canada were quite good. And then I thought rock music of Canada. Something about that stuck in my head, so I wrote that down. And then this was before I formed the band, I believe, when I came up with that name. Yeah. So when we were like a month into our existence as jamming, we thought we might as well call this something, so we actually have a thing to reference it to, because we were getting quite involved in it at that point, because it was the one musical project I was involved in, while the other two, they had their other bands, and for the first time in like 5 years I had nothing else going on.
Right.
So I thought it'd be aptly right to call it something, and I was hesitant to, because all the bands I was in previously, I was very adamant to do that and get like a system in place, but it just fall apart and I put too much pressure on it. This was like the first band I didn't want to put any pressure on, just have fun.
Yep.
And because of that, it's been a pleasant experience. But basically, I wrote that name down. We ran through the mile-long list of names, and we thought that was like the one name that wasn't... it was apt, because it's one of those names that people either love or hate, but all the same, it's like one of those names that think, why is it called that? But it's But that questioning of it still means it's caught your interest. So,
well, exactly. Yeah, if people remember it, it's obviously a good thing.
Yeah. So, and we were using it as a temporary name until I went watching Shellac of North America at Manchester Academy 2 the same year, and the first song, and that Shellac as a band are a massive influence on me.
Yep.
And you two have both enjoyed it when I've introduced you to it. Yeah, Shellac. And the first song they played was Canada, and I thought, you know what? I'm not a big, like, the universe sends messages person, but I thought that was kind of like a big You know what? What
Yeah,
other
roll
thing
with
do
it.
I actually need? It's a good name. It has weirdness. It has character, and I am quite a big fan of Canada. And frankly, in the last year, I've been noticing a lot of like jackets and hats with loads of maple leaves on it. So I've been
Right.
kind of like saying, "Oh, they're wearing Canada hats." And whenever I say that, people think, "Wait, did your band have hats?" No, they're just generic hats.
Yeah,
So it's quite funny.
yeah,
So it's quite
definitely,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, and frankly, it's just stuck now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, fair play, fair play.
Yeah.
You mentioned shellac there as one of your main influences. Would you say they're a big influence for the band as well? Or?
Well, they are a big influence on us completely. But we did write like a mile-long list of influences one day when we were having like a coffee, and we thought, what do we actually like?
Yeah.
And that's evolved. I mean, like if I did, because I grew up on pretty like musician-centered parents. Like my dad, he's a lot like Barry from High Fidelity, just
Yeah,
like
well,
listen.
obviously I know your dad, but
Yeah, you know my dad, and you know what he's like. He's essentially
Mm.
Jack Black from High Fidelity at times.
Yep,
so
without a shadow.
I'm very like top 5 in no particular order person. So we all tried that exercise. So if you want us to like list some influences each, we could do that.
Yeah, well, you know, if there's ones in particular that you feel are strong influences, yeah.
Yeah, well, for me it would be Shellac, USA Nails, the St. Pierre Snake Invasion, McCluskey, and probably Fugazi were a big influence on me.
Right, yep.
As throughout life, and Dwarves probably been more recent years. But
Yeah, fair
Scott,
play, yeah.
do you want to have a gander? What are your influences? Scotto?
Big influence for me, Rammstein. Rammstein have
Yep.
been a big part of my life for, well, a lot of it really.
Yeah, cool.
I've been listening to The Darkness for yonks now. My dad
Mm-hmm.
subjected me to that, but I started to enjoy it.
Yep.
Royal Blood as well. It's really influenced my bass style.
Mm-hmm.
It's made me come out my shadow,
Right.
out the
Yep.
shadows, and like realize that bass isn't just a backing instrument. You can play lead on a bass.
Yeah,
you don't
definitely.
have to stay in the back.
Well, in this band, because there's only 3 of us, we do have to do as much as we can individually, and it adds a holistic approach. And of course, I've introduced you to Girls Against Boys and the John Spencer Blues Explosion, which you've been a part of. And Scott, what are your? No, Scott. I always
Tom.
do that. Tom, what are your influences? I'm sorry.
So, well,
We've
my
all been there.
influences, I've got a huge wide range of things that I'm into within music, but I would say because of Blake here, he's introduced new things to me, like Slayer,
yeah.
like Shellac, for instance, you know, and you know, like Royal Blood and stuff like that,
Right,
you know.
Yep.
You know, without Blake doing that, you know, it's opened me to new things. Actually, this is more of a recent thing for me. Actually,
Yep.
so I've tried out something new.
Yep.
So yeah, it's all quite new to me, to be honest.
Mm.
Yeah, and you've been taking it very, very well.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, we all have a mutual love of Led Zeppelin.
Right.
Of course, and
Well.
like we've tried, we failed, and we'll try again, despite imminent failure, to do our best to cover Immigrant Song as many times as possible until it sounds remotely listenable, not just like a, you know, like a megaphone that's been chucked around a washing machine and then we
Yeah, I
played
get
it
you.
through it.
Mm-hmm.
We've done our best. All right?
Yeah. Well, you obviously mentioned quite a lot of varied, you know, influences there.
Yeah.
I mean, is it one of you who actually writes the songs, or do you all get involved in the songwriting? You know, I mean, you mentioned you've written quite a few so far as well.
Yeah.
you, isn't it?
I don't.
You do most of the.
Well, it's a very collaborative effort. All the songs have come organically. Like we've never had like one person. Like in a lot of terms, it's kind of like each person stays in their lane, but sometimes we cross over. So,
Yeah.
like I never would write a drum part. All the drums are entirely Tom, and that's
Right. Yep.
and he's an incredible drummer. He's my favorite drummer out of all my friends, because you have a lot of drummers who want to be kind of like this or this, whereas Tom is just all over the place. He's not the most consistent, but I like that inconsistency because it
Yep.
no problem, and it creates that really cool dynamic and that really interesting drumming style that I really adore. But he stays in his line. He writes the drums. Scott, but in terms of the actual main body of the song, that's mainly me me and Scott, like, if you look at the album, you wrote more of that than I did. Like, because it all starts in the process of we have a riff and we'll jam on that riff, and then we think of a concept. So, like, a good example on the album is a song like "She's on Tinder," which you pretty much wrote. It was a very slap-based song, so of course, Scott's time to shine. New movie coming out this fall, but he would write like the body, the chords, and the thing, and then I would improvise over that, and that would become the song. But we'd need a concept, and the concept behind that song is a friend of mine from college, who for a week just went on Tinder dates and received sexual gratification every single evening, to which they bragged continuously. Yeah, and that's their life. But I found just the way they were, kind of like going on about it. I found it was quite funny how they were quite open about it. So we wrote a song about that, and that's how it happened. And that's kind of how like a lot of the songs come about. Occasionally we'll kind of like get a preempt. So like we'll think of an idea for a song before, and like you've probably seen us around today. We'll think of something like we'll write songs about the end of Avengers Infinity War.
Right.
We still have yet to do that. So we'll have concepts, but it all starts in the rehearsal rooms with a riff, and it evolves into something more, and we'll add a concept later. But we also kind of like, at the time, depending on how we feel about this song, we'll think of a concept. Sometimes we get a bit stuck. We've been in a bit of a dry spell the last 2 months, but we've spent like 7 weeks away because him doing his exams and me finishing off my course and him working. So we've really gotten back to it, I think. But that's how it kind of comes about. It's a very organic, collaborative process at times.
Yeah, no, I get you. I get you.
And it's fun. We always try and make it fun.
Yeah.
Because if we put pressure on it, it's not fun.
No.
It's kind of like like at Crofts where they abuse the dog to stand on its hind legs. Knowing that, you don't want a traumatized dog standing on its hind leg. You want it to come to that naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a very extended metaphor. I don't know why I did that.
No, brilliant. I mean, obviously, you mentioned in there having to take time out for exams or whatever. Music industry, obviously, it's not an easy industry to get on with. What would you say have been your biggest challenges so far? That things that you've had to overcome or whatever.
Financial challenges has been a bit of a difficult one, because there's times like we can't rehearse as much as we want to because we can't afford the studio times. There's times where we can't. Again, though, it's not really a big challenge because we're all quite young and we don't have a pressure on it. I don't think there's ever been like a massive challenge. The only challenge is if we've had a dry spell and we're not feeling that inspired and we're in a bit of a rut. That's the only time I can say I felt we've had a challenge, because we're stuck and we're finding ourselves struggling to enjoy. Because subconsciously, I think we put pressure, at least I do, I put pressure on myself to try and do something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just difficult to just let go and enjoy what you have. But at the same time, we all collectively have a very short attention span, so we try and we move on to what we do. Like, again, we've written an album, we've written an EP, we're writing a new album, and we already immediately have an idea for a next EP. It's kind of like, we're trying to think ahead of the curve. We're very kind of like ahead of the curve, but we're trying to still stay in the moment, because we know if we think too into the future, we're going to get anxious and start making mistakes. And in terms of the music industry, I mean, like myself personally, I'm studying to be a chemist. I've always wanted to be a scientist.
Right. Okay.
That's a career I will use to fund the music. Whereas you two, like you like Tom, like.
Well, for me, for instance, I want an actual career in music. You know, like work. Yes, as a session drummer, work with lots of different people. That's my idea, and I'll pass you over to Scott.
I've got a range of ideas of what I want to do if music doesn't work out. I want to get a diploma in teaching.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I'd love to just have music some place in my life, even if it's not professional. If it's not professional, I'd quite like to be an interpreter for deaf people.
Right. Okay.
I speak a bit of sign language already, and I'd like to further that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, he's a very interesting gentleman. this person right here. This person right here is very interesting. Hence why it's already been kind of like announced by all our friends, are kind of like, you know, those stereotypes you get in the band where you look at the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think like George Harrison's the silent one, and then you've got the dark, gloomy. Like you got all that. For us, it's a literal dynamic of the quiet one, which is the sexually attractive one, which is young Scott here, and then there's me, who has the reputation already of being quite a mental gentleman, just on the basis of, you know, running around dancing in the streets when I, you know, put, you know, the first half of I Want to Be Your Dog by the Stooges on in my headphones. That'll just get me going.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to. You don't want to speak.
No, it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. How can people actually listen to your music? If you got like SoundClouds, Facebooks?
We do have a SoundCloud account, and we're going to be releasing the EP on that. Mm-hmm. But the predominant, all of it's pretty much on Bandcamp, which is difficult when you have people of our age. Like I say to like my friends at college, they're like, "Oh, we're on Bandcamp." They go, "Huh?" I'm like,
yeah,
it's a brilliant tool that supports artists directly. Get on board. But no one knows what it is. So we're planning to re-release the album later this year on the anniversary that it came out.
Oh yeah, cool.
And then we'll release it on all platforms, so it'll be a lot more accessible, and hopefully it'll get us more out there, because that is the flaw.
Yeah.
But to promoters, we send them the link. We wait if they like it. I will nag them in person. I'm very good at nagging in person because I have a clinical disregard for people's personal space. Mm-hmm. And not in the creepy way, just in the way of like, have you done it? Have you listened to it? Yeah. Just I'm quite an enthusiastic fellow at times. So the way we try and share it to as many people, but it's also a matter of if people want to listen, because I appreciate people have their own lives, have the music they like, and sometimes we're often told, like when we released the album, our closest friends all said, like Connor's a good example. Connor even has a song written about him on the album, and when he got it, he went, what was the phrasing? Not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. The most awkwardly British expression of nope, don't like it.
Yeah, great stuff.
But we are going to try and get a bit more out there going forward, because we do want to try and get more gigs, because I'm a big believer in the Minutemen's flyers and gigs philosophy, where everything is to get to the gigs. The albums, while also a part of documentation, also part of like, hey, we've achieved this. But it's like everything we put out, everything we do is kind of like an enticement for people to come to the gigs, because we love the gigs. The gigs are fun. We get some audience participation. We get people dancing, which was a big thing, really, because I've gone to hundreds of gigs in my life. Thousands at this rate. I've seen thousands of bands. And the biggest... And after you've seen that many, you like these two here, I classify them as musicians. I don't classify myself as one. If I can have a moment of ego here, I classify myself as an entertainer, because they can play music. They are masters of their instrument. I don't regard myself. I mean, you'll hear on the radio session I sound like a drunken priest who's fallen off the wagon again. Spurting about God. But it's a matter of, there's two types of people who perform these days. I find it's either a musician who moves people with the music, or an entertainer who makes people enjoy and laugh and get involved. I like the gigs. I've remembered gigs where I felt more involved and felt more kind of like a part of the
get
thing.
What you mean,
and that's what I feel like we've tried to do. And you have to admit, it is fun. It is fun when we get people clapping and dancing. And
we always get a good response from the audience. It's always very energetic when we play.
Yeah.
Because normally people are pissed. But... But they still enjoy it and they still dance to it, and it's such a great feeling to see that people enjoy what we do. Because originally we did it for fun, we did it for ourselves. We never planned to
we did
release it. But to see people enjoying it, getting up and dancing, and seeing that great reception, it's brilliant.
Yeah, no, great stuff. Yeah.
You should enjoy it yourself, but if you can get other people to enjoy it, that's a win.
No, obviously, Yeah, no, brilliant. Well, obviously we'll pop links up to your Bandcamp and everything on the page.
Thank you.
No problem at all. So yeah, let's have a listen to you guys anyway, and let's everyone out there see what you think.